Hello and welcome to a new episode of Airport CEO here on BongoPlanes, where we have the Big Bird update, which means we will be able to start integrating all the things we need for wide-body aircraft. But before we get too far into the video, if you should end up enjoying this video, then don't forget to smash the like button. That really helps us out. And of course, if you're new around here, why not hit subscribe? Alright, so with the wide-body update to the game, there's a lot of changes. Obviously, we can now have wide-body aircraft at the game. For that, we have specific stands that are large stands, so that there's space for the aircraft. With that, there's also a bunch of other things that have followed in the update. Obviously, for the larger aircraft, we also need wider taxiways. So the normal width I've used for my taxiways so far has been 5 blocks. That was absolutely fine for single-aisle aircraft, and of course for the small aircraft more than sufficient. For the wide-body aircraft, I will make the taxiways 7 blocks wide. So I will need to change some of the taxiways, at least those where I expect the wide-body aircraft to go. I'll also have to remove a few stands, which I have already done here in front of the terminal, because there we will put wide-body stands, so that we have a really nice line of wide-body aircraft here at the terminal. Then I also had to remove my runways, because for the wide-body aircraft we need a larger runway. Now I had foreseen a system of having 2 parallel runways here. We will still have that, but I don't think I will have space for 2 large runways. So we will make 1 large runway and 1 medium runway. Also, in the previous version of the game, what was possible was to have a runway be crossed by a taxiway. If you had placed a taxiway and then put a runway down, extended the runway crossing over the taxiway, it was possible to keep the taxiway and have aircraft crossing the runway. That was really nice. It doesn't look like that is possible anymore, which is a little bit of a shame, because that was really enabling to make really nice layouts. But as it doesn't look like that is working anymore, we will have to work our way around that. You also see me placing down the runways a few times. It did take me a few times to figure out where exactly I needed to place the runways, so that the distance between things wasn't too small. Obviously it will be quite narrow, probably too narrow, but it is the best I can do with the space we have available. And again, it is a game. The game doesn't really care. I would like to have a little bit more space between the runways in real life. But again, it is a game, and the game doesn't really care. The game will work as it is here with the setup or the layout that we are working on here. And then, as I mentioned in the last episode, I'd like to add a remote stand that is capable of taking wide-body aircraft over at our government's terminal. That is very much in spirit with what we have seen on satellite images of Berlin-Tegel. For that I had to remove a few of the small stands, but as we are only using them for general aviation, we don't really lose much. Actually, we could live without them entirely, but I like to have a little bit of general aviation at my airport, so we will keep as many of them as possible. But we had to sacrifice a few of them. And then of course also we need to try to fit in a taxiway here. Again, it will be 7 blocks wide instead of 5. So we are getting a bit close here to the runway, but the game doesn't care. So we will just have to live with the optics here, that it is perhaps a little bit too close for comfort. But hey, it will work, and that is the main thing. So yeah, while I'm working here on the taxiway, the new and improved taxiway system that will be able to handle the wide-body aircraft, again, I'm not entirely sure how they will interact with this airport, we will see once we will have some aircraft actually going around the airport. But right now I'm simply trying to make the runways as wide, well, 7 wide, not as wide as possible, but 7 wide, where I foresee wide-body aircraft to go. And that's basically to the wide-body stands, and then of course to the runways. And we will also add some de-icing in this episode. There are some parts of the airport where I don't think the aircraft would ever go, because there's no reason for them to go there. So there we will just keep the taxiway system 5 wide, because that will be sufficient for the medium-sized aircraft that we will be having going around in those areas. But in the end we will see how the wide-body aircraft will behave at this airport. I have made a test play where I have basically made a very small airport just to make a test run with the wide-body stands and wide-body aircraft. I've learned a lot on that, but it is a little bit different to make a specific setup just to try out some features, and then actually building a large airport like this, and then implementing this new stuff and see how that works. So that is something I'm pretty sure we will be fine, but we will see. We might have to change a few things here and there. So the main issue is simply to figure out what the game logic is, so how the things in the game will behave, and then we just adjust accordingly. Of course, with the wide-body update, they have introduced much more than just wide-body aircraft. We have a bunch of new textures, new floors and stuff like that. That has messed up the existing textures a little bit, at least in some places. So we will have to fix that a little bit. That is also some work I will probably do off camera. It has mainly affected our government's terminal, as that is the terminal where we actually have been already working with different floors and stuff like that, where we have really gone into detail with the interior. The other terminals are still quite bare-boned. So I will probably work a little bit on that, because I really want to get at least the government's terminal running in the next episode. So by the next episode we will have aircraft coming in at the airport. That is the goal. So I will do some more work off camera to ensure that we can reach that with the next episode. But that also means that it is now time for you to suggest airlines that we can add to the airport. Obviously, mainly from the government's building, we will have Air Force aircraft operating from the German Air Force, but I think just here in the beginning we can also mix in a few civilian aircraft. It's also good just to try out how the airport, or the terminal specifically, works, that everything is all right. So yeah, feel free to suggest any airlines in the comment section below. The only thing that is really important is that they should be realistically flying to Berlin-Tegel. If it's I don't know, like totally unrealistic, like for example JetBlue, don't suggest JetBlue because they would not fly to Berlin-Tegel. But anything else that is realistically flying to Berlin-Tegel, feel free to suggest it in the comment section below. If I have the mod, I will definitely add it. Right, another little thing that we will be working on here is actually, you can already see it, we have already made another little building here where I'm adding a bunch of baggage bays. Those baggage bays are replacing baggage bays that I originally had placed in Terminal 1. They have all been removed because we will need the space in Terminal 1 for other things. So I have removed the baggage bays from there and moved them over here, and then we will have a central building here which will take care of all the luggage, at least for Terminal 1. I think for Terminal 2 we can fit the baggage bays inside that building. Of course, they have also changed the setup a little bit for the baggage bays. Normally you just needed a little connection to the baggage bays at the front of the baggage bay. Now you need to actually build roads on both sides of the baggage bays, which requires a little bit more space inside a building. Basically, well, at least you can't build the baggage bays as close up to walls as you were able to before. The next thing we are working on here is the de-icing. Of course, with the wide-body update, we now also have large de-icing pads, which we of course need for the wide-body aircraft because they won't fit on the medium de-icing pads. I will have a mix here at the airport of wide or large de-icing pads and medium de-icing pads. We will even also have some small de-icing pads. The only thing is, I'm pretty sure that medium aircraft will also be able to use the large de-icing pads. I haven't actually tried that out yet, so I might be wrong here, but I know that, for example, medium aircraft can use the stands for the wide-body aircraft. Makes sense, but it of course also means that they can block a stand and make it impossible for a wide-body aircraft to be parked. So I'm not entirely sure how the game will behave here with the large de-icing pads, if they will be operating exclusively for wide-body aircraft or medium aircraft will go over there as well, because we already know that the game logic with the de-icing pads is not entirely foreseeable. Aircraft seem to go wherever they please, so we might have the issue that medium aircraft will go over and block the large de-icing pads, but we don't know yet. We will see that as soon as we have operations and snowfall here at the airport, and then we will see what the game logic actually is. Alright, so the last things we will be working on in today's episode are actually over at the government's terminal. Obviously, we don't have any spare space over here, so we will have to make do with what we have, but the baggage bay of course needs a little bit more space, or basically it couldn't be placed as it was because we had a wall fairly close to the baggage bay, but obviously now we need a road there, so we had to open up the wall there, and then we have moved a few things basically here, working on the stairs. I mean, that's not really entirely necessary because we don't really need to be able to access the lower floors, but I like to have that. And then also what I mentioned in the last episode is that I completely forgot to make the baggage retrieval area accessible for passengers that have arrived, so we are fixing that as well. And that will basically make the terminal operational, or at least capable of taking in flights. So that's really what we will be doing in the next episode. Next episode we will have operations, we will have aircraft. I will be doing a few things off camera just to make sure that we will be ready, and then we will make the last few adjustments in the episode so that we can open up the government's terminal and try out the first few operations here at Berlin-Tegel while we are continuing our work on the other terminals. So yeah, that is all for today's episode. It's the last episode of Airport CEO in the year 2019. The series will of course continue in the new year. I hope you had a really lovely Christmas time, or whatever else you might have been celebrating. I hope you will have a really lovely New Year's Eve as well. But of course, if you have enjoyed this video, then don't forget to smash the like button. It really helps us out. If you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? That would be absolutely awesome. With that, I'd like to say thank you so much for watching, and for the last time in 2019, I'm checking out, and bye.